Welcome, Alphas, and thanks for joining us. Our guest today is Jay Glazer, the Jay Glazer from NFL Insider on Fox NFL Sunday. And he happens to be the founder of Merging Vets and Players, an organization that matches former combat veterans and former professional athletes to help each other through the transition into their new lives, ones that are away from the battlefields and the playing fields. His book, Unbreakable, How I Turned My Depression and Anxiety into Motivation and You Can Too, helped Jay become a voice for many struggling with mental health issues. We'll talk with Jay about all of this and more. But first, I think it's Joe's might be itching over there to share something, Joe. Or, better yet, he might actually have a rash. You can never know. Joe, what you got?
Okay, First of all, I want to say it's not a rash. The doctor said that it wasn't a rash, and by doctor I mean my mom. And number two, so is that a dating service like Merging Vets and should be?
Yeah.
Not
yet. Probably not. Probably not so much.
Did you know that tomorrow is Purple Heart Day?
You know what? I don't think I did.
You're probably lying. You know everything. So the original Purple Heart, designed as a badge of merit, was awarded by George Washington in 1782. There was a lack of funds in the Continental Army at the time, so the award was a way to honor enlisted and deserving people. And I think that lack of funds is still going on.
Yeah, for sure.
This honor is presented to soldiers for any singular meritorious action. It was designed with a piece of silk bound through it with a thin edge of silver. We don't even get the silver anymore. So Washington only gave out 3 of the badges himself and instead authorized subordinates to issue the badges as they saw fit. The badge of merit faded from use, but was revived and relaunched in 1932, this time as the Purple Heart. As well as honoring those wounded in combat, this iteration of the Purple Heart recognized commendable action. It was in 1944 that the policy was tweaked slightly, and the Purple Heart was given the purpose we know it for today, specifically to honor those who have been wounded or have lost their lives. The first service member to be given the modern Purple Heart was General Douglas MacArthur for his service in the Pacific Theater during World War II. In total, there have been 1.8 million Purple Hearts awarded over the years. Purple Heart Day was observed in 2014 and has been observed every year since, and it is a chance to reflect on the bravery of those who have fought for the U.S. and to ensure that their courage is never forgotten.
Do we know how General MacArthur was wounded?
I don't know. Might have got burned on his coffee.
Oh, that is like McDonald's. Do you think he would sue?
I don't know. Apparently, there's the famous story of the lady that got burned and sued McDonald's.
In the 90s.
But apparently, she ended up getting infections, and this is all me just like, this could all be like internet myth at this point, but apparently she was severely, like legitimately harmed.
Ow. That's
so
rough.
And that has nothing to do with the Purple Heart thing. But
on a side note, well, and then like I think the Purple Heart was also modified in, was it 2008 or 2009 to also encompass traumatic brain injuries because of the evolution of combat injuries during
that is
modern
really good.
conflict.
Yeah, because there are benefits, and that's a way to make sure that you have some injury that is linked directly to combat for the use of VA benefits. Sometimes it's a little weird. I recently was hanging out with my first sergeant who was literally hit in the face with in a vehicle with an IED and lost teeth and everything, and it was deemed non-combat related. He got his teeth knocked out by a bomb. They fixed it, but that just goes to show that sometimes those things go through and it's just not read by a human that's paying attention. It's awful. So having a Purple Heart, which usually goes through command, would be a really good way to, I think, circumvent some of that.
Well, I will say this though too, that even the Purple Heart it's not fail safe as well
Yeah.
in that regard, because nothing, anything that has human hands on it's not fail safe. And there is this sort of machismo downrange as well. Like I've known fellas who've like pulled shrapnel from their body who were like, nah, I don't need medical care, and no, I don't need a medal. And then years later those things come back to haunt you a little bit. And
Yeah.
and there's a sense of pride and things like that. But that's neither here nor there. The Purple Heart is, some say it's a badge of honor. I've heard
Yeah.
others say that it was a medal that proved the bad guy won. And anyway, so there are these like two sides of the same coin. And from my perspective, listen, I've known so many people to be Purple Heart recipients, and every single one of them are my heroes. And past, present, and to those who have yet to, and God willing, they don't earn them.
Yeah.
But yeah, and hey, Joe, you're a Purple Heart recipient, so thank you.
I appreciate it. As a side note, I've been ragging on the VA a little bit. I want to give them some props and say that apparently they have really ramped up their processing, and they've got people working overtime, and there are people that are getting their letters and getting their decisions in like a month or two lately. So VA, keep it up. That's great. It's easy. We make jokes, but it's hopefully it'll be good natured, kind of the way that the branches do, and we'll all be able to laugh about this while everybody gets their proper decision within a reasonable amount of time soon. But
and hey, all you veterans out there who pulled shrapnel from your bodies and decided that you didn't want a Purple Heart downrange, there are veteran service officers out there who can help get retroactive medals and put you in there and get those changed. So go see a certified veteran service officer, especially with the American Legion, and they can talk to you what that process is.
So you don't even have to be a member.
You don't have to be a member to do it. So stick around. We're going to talk with Jay Glazer right after the break.
Talking about suicide is hard, but the American Legion has joined forces with Columbia University to develop training for those who want to learn more about interacting and responding to veterans who may be in crisis. American Legion Be the One training. In the 90-minute class, you'll learn to understand the types of suicidal ideation and 4 behaviors that indicate imminent risk, how to use the Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale to determine at-risk individuals, how to identify risk factors and warning signs, and how to communicate effectively with individuals who may be at risk of hurting themselves. Online and in-person sessions are available. Visit betheone.org/training to find a session. Learn the skills that'll give you the confidence to talk about suicide and be the one to save just one veteran.
Welcome back, Alphas. Today we are joined by Jay Glazer. Jay, welcome to the Tango Alpha Lima podcast.
Proud to be here. How we doing, gang?
Outstanding.
Super.
Suspiciously
I
good.
like to hear that. Good.
Jay, what a pleasure. I'm so glad you had time to make for us. Thank you.
You're just saying that. Come on.
I am not.
I bet you say that to all the guests.
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't. Honestly, I can say that aside from the occasional Dallas Cowboys game that I have to watch because of my husband being from Texas, I don't necessarily follow pro athletics. And I'm sorry. This is not really my realm. It was really hard for me to make the leap between veterans and athletes. And when I was preparing for this show and doing my research, I was like, how does this work?
I can help you out. I can help you out with that real quick.
I'm going somewhere with this, but I spent 10 years going from one battle space to another. I was wounded twice. I recovered from the first injury enough to get back to work. I got back in the game, air quotes. But the second injury, there was no coming back from, and I got benched permanently. And that was an intended pun. So, the thing is, all of the pain from my physical injuries was really nothing compared to the emotional anguish that I suffered from, losing my identity, losing the power to decide my own life's direction. Plus, I was still grappling with the loss of my friends. I had post-traumatic stress. And anyway, but what I didn't realize until discovering your program was that athletes go through a lot of similar emotions when their careers meet similar fates. And I suppose that's what makes merging vets and players, or MVP, so powerful. Now, can you tell me and the alphas who are listening the genesis of MVP and what its purpose is, how they can get involved?
So it actually started in my living room about 9 years ago. And look, I've had a background in mixed martial arts. I was one of the first guys in the NFL to actually fight in mixed martial arts. And as a result, I got to train troops throughout the world, which is really cool. Went to Bagram Airfield, went all through South Korea, Hawaii, did a lot of places. And I'm just, the warrior to warrior. I just love I love the warrior mindset of our troops, but also more so, I looked up to our troops more because it's selfless. Like when we fight in like MMA or boxing or wrestling, we're doing that for ourselves and your teammates, but not for anybody we don't know. You're serving people you don't know, which always was like, oh my God. Well, in the same right, I've covered the NFL since 1993 and have strong relationships. I've seen so many guys go by the wayside when it's done. And I saw a lot of the same thing. I became friends with a lot of vets. They have the same issue. And it's, look, you're losing your locker room. That's the issue. When you lose your locker room, you lose your tribe. That sucks. Plus, sports and veterans go through a similar thing of losing their structure, losing their schedule, right? You're always told where to go, when to go, who to go with, who to sit with, who to train with, who to eat with. Also, that's gone. And when both of you get put in civilian life, it's like going from kindergarten to college. I'm going to go find, where my next class is. Well, how am I supposed to do that? So the biggest thing for me, I said, wow, I know they don't do the same job. I get it. But the suck of the transition is exactly the same. And a lot of you guys don't know what to do. And it's worse with the combat vets because you're always told, don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. Well, how are you supposed to get a job if you don't talk about it? Everybody else is lying on their resume to get a job. And our veterans are being told, don't talk about it. Well, that kind of led me down a path also to talk more about mental health to help all these groups out. So it's pretty magical when you could rebuild the locker room of this common mindset. And, where it's not for everybody, but there was a void there to try and figure out how to get combat vets. Which, obviously the number of combat vets who kill themselves every day is not, day one, I took it personal. I'm like, man, it's just not okay. It's not acceptable. If I could do something about this, I'm going to do something about it. So I put together this program originally out of my house, and then out of my gym Unbreakable in West Hollywood, and started there with, oh man, maybe one or two football players, a couple of fighters, and a couple of vets. It's it. And now it's grown into 8 chapters throughout the country and pop-up chapters throughout America. And the whole thing really is to give you a team again, so you could walk this walk together with a whole new group and not feel so alone. And I have one friend who's in the group who said, I'm in AA, NA, Al-Anon, all these different things. And he said, the only thing I had in common, this is an ex-pro athlete, said, only thing I had in common with these people was sobriety, but I didn't have anything else in common. I'm a warrior. I'm a monster. And when he had MVP, he's like, these people get me. I get them. And that's really the thing. It's a way to not isolate. It's a way to have a tribe again. It's a way to have a tribe who understands you. And we want to kind of build forever teams here.
It's interesting that you say that because, my last football game I played in high school as a defensive end for an awful high school football team, cried like a baby because that chapter of my life was over. And then I go into, the Navy. I became a corpsman. It's like a field medic for Marines, went over to Fallujah, Iraq in 2004. On Labor Day, I lost most of my second squad. And 11 days after that, I lost my left leg above the knee, and my right leg is my bad one. The one that's missing is the good one. And I say all that not not to be dramatic or anything like that. I say that because that transition was similar in that you go from realizing that whether you like it or not, there's a chapter that's ended. And then, as a veteran, I have watched that mental health from the inside side of things as I tried to figure out how to be a dad and how to be a civilian after going to war, and realized that I had to find how to make that work. I've functioned in these high stress environments. How do I step outside of that and maintain motivation? So you've been very straightforward about your own mental health journey, and you work with emerging vets and players, which is incredible to me what you're doing. My favorite stories from America's Vet Dogs is when people say, I've got my spouse back, when they tell us, these success stories, or when somebody who's being a real Oakley vapor, one of those guys that put the Oakleys on and they cross their arms and they go outside and they vape and they sit in the back of the classroom and they don't talk to anybody. And then a year later, you see them doing public speaking. And you're like, that's what I want to see. I want to see you opening up and being here. So, I've had these conversations that feel common to me that turned out to be very important for someone else. And not all moments are two-sided. And it's made me much more aware and willing to be on every time I can management. I don't want to be complacent and misgiving someone a connection that they really need. And I'd love on your end to hear a success story and how it affected your method, because sometimes it feels arrogant to always be telling everybody what to do. But then you realize there's just a vacuum of people who need positive reinforcement. And I think male, like you said, whether it's sports or military, we're taught to work as a team. And then we get out, we don't want to be the complainer, so we don't complain, but it's just us now. So no one's taking care of us anymore. And I think we're getting to a point now where we can talk about mental health in a way that wasn't okay a couple of years ago. I'd love to hear a success story related to that.
We got a ton of them. And well, here's the thing also. I come from a world of MMA and football, obviously, covering it, but I coached MMA for a long time. And the way I coached it was, man, our fighters have no talent. Even the ones that did, though, we're like, we got no talent. But we'll be relentless. If we are tired, you'll never know. If you're hurt, you will never know. Our fighters do not take a stool in between rounds. They pace back and forth and pace back and forth, because we want somebody looking and go, what is wrong with Jay Glazer? Why is he not, like, we want to break people that way. And so you never show it. But in real life, especially us dudes, we started taking that into real life too. And I realize now that mindset, which yes, helps us on a field or a cage and all these athletes we've trained, that's real dangerous for us in the real world. So now I'm taking a dude like me, like no one's questioning my manhood. So I could cry on the drop of a dime. And I'm now telling us, hey, do the opposite. There's still a place for that, right? In war or in sports, right? But in the rest of the world, it makes you more manly to start opening up and talking about it. And I'll tell you a couple of great ones, because there's been so many. We've had a lot of members who were going to commit suicide who didn't, and now are doing amazing things. And just the way we talk about that, we had a moment one night where somebody in MVP was really upset. And what we do, by the way, at MVP, we train guys and women for about 40 half hour, just to give that burn again of a team. But then we talk mental health. And it's really what I learned from these circles. I was then able to write a book, Unbreakable, to share with the world. So they're still being of service, the way I look at it. I'm getting from them what works, what doesn't work, what resonates, what doesn't resonate. And I'm like, this should be shared with the world. And that's why I wrote my book about it for everybody. And same with my podcast, because it needs to start being talked about, as you said. And I think a doodly dude needs to start talking about it. Instead, I'm not your doctor, I'm not your therapist, I'm not your teacher. I'm just a dude who's messed up, who's learned how to be good with his messed upness. We had like a night, and there was one of our vets who was really, really going through it. He said, I was supposed to go out with one of my teammates on Saturday. Friday, he called, and I just didn't take his call because I'm like, I'll see him the next day. And he ended up killing himself. And he was and immediately, me and everybody else in the room, brother, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. That's on him. It's not your fault. But still, we could say as much as we want, right? You have this survivor's guilt, which we have also changed to survivor's responsibility in our group. It's your responsibility now to go forward and help out everybody else and
love that,
shine a bright light on your life for those who've passed. But literally the whole room, we were about 95 of us in there that night. Everyone started crying. And I said, All right, raise the hands in here. How many of y'all have attempted suicide? And at least 3/4 of the room hands go up.
Wow.
And I said, okay, look at everybody who's crying here tonight. First of all, for those of you who attempted, this is what you would have left behind. And I'm positive that your friend who did take his life is sitting up in whatever afterlife you believe in right now, looking down at the rest of you going, oh my God, what did I do? No, I didn't want to do that to everybody else. I just wanted my pain to end. And I guarantee you, if he could have that do-over, he would.
Yeah.
Well, by seeing the pain in this room, gang, this is your do-over. And for a long time, that resonated. Still does.
Yeah.
And we've had, for a high risk group, we've had very, very few suicides and really attempts compared to how many had before coming to that program. And what I've done now by writing the book is I've seen that has resonated. This is wild. I had a guy from South Carolina who reached out to me, and I don't check my own DMs because people are freaking nasty, right? So
yeah,
I'll have somebody look at them and send them to me, or people will ask me to fund things for them that I'm like I will for my family, but I'm not, like, it's crazy. So I don't, and I'm sensitive, so I try not to look. But person who's doing my social media said, hey, you need to read this. And he wrote to me and said, hey, you never know when a wrong turn ends up saving your life. Mm-hmm. I was on the way to Hilton Head, South Carolina to kill myself. It was a 3-day trip. I needed supplies. I stopped off at a Target. My GPS I put in Walmart. It sent me to a Target instead. When I was in there, I saw your book, Unbreakable. And I don't think Unbreakable was sold in Walmart, but it was featured in Target for Mental Health Awareness Month. And he said, and I got 3 days. And it was a 3-day plan. He said, I need some beers, I need some blankets, this. And the last day he was going to go into the ocean and take his own life and make it look like he drowned without anybody knowing. He said, I got back to my place. I started reading your book that first night, almost finished it by the end of the second day. By the third morning I woke up, no longer a reason to kill myself. I packed up, went home. Wow. And I talk a lot about, I may be the one saying it, but the key is to have teammates that really spread this word, and same with our vets, to spread it to everybody else. And it's not about me, it's about everybody spreading it. You build this team. This guy ended up buying like 50 books and writing up a thing. Hey, teammate, I was in a lot of pain. This book saved my life. Maybe it could help save yours. Here's my phone number if you ever need a teammate. And handed these out to people. And he told me, I think I saved a couple of people's lives doing that. That was really, really beautiful. It was amazing.
That's humbling. That's got to be so humbling. Like in a positive way. Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
I met up with him. I brought him to Panthers camp with me to meet the team too. Their executives. Yeah. It was cool,
in the Wounded Warrior amputee football game with Snoop Dogg. That's the last time I played football.
Me too. Wow. I didn't see you there.
Must have just missed me.
But also like our vets, I'll tell you another great one. We had like a Memorial Day. I do try to push our vets out of their comfort zone. I don't want them to just survive. I want them to thrive. And so like Memorial Day, our first Memorial Day, I would come up with this thing and I said, hey, so how y'all celebrating this week? And I knew what I was doing. And then we had about 50 vets in there, and they're like, what do you mean celebrate? It's Memorial Day. I said, yeah, no. How y'all celebrate? They said, we don't celebrate. This is when our friends died. I said, I know. Why aren't you celebrating them? And they were like, huh? I said, hey, dude, when I die, no one's wearing black. You're all having parties for me. You're happy. There's no doom and gloom. No one's putting a revolver in their mouth when I go. No one's drinking a fifth of rum when I go. Celebrate them. You think they want you sitting like that on Memorial Day? No, they want you to celebrate them. And all of a sudden, the next Memorial Day, right there, our whole crew went into the cemetery over in near UCLA and the VA cemetery, and just started going up to people saying, hey, who are you celebrating? And started sharing that message. And it took so much pain away from so many people. And that's what I love to do. I love to switch the narrative for a lot of our vets. On 4th of July and Veterans Day, I make them celebrate themselves, like it's a holiday for you.
Yeah.
Give me something you're proud of on Veterans Day. Give me something you can celebrate about yourself. 4th of July, when those fireworks are going off, we're celebrating you from George Washington's troops on. That's why we're free. And we're celebrating you. And I know it's, again, you're agreeing not to talk about yourself or even be proud, but you got to be. You got to switch the narrative where you can celebrate something about yourself. And you should be proud of what you've done, whether it's just serving with a teammate or somebody you have saved. We've all saved somebody along the way. And somebody said, well, how am I supposed to be proud of killing somebody? So I didn't say that. Just give me something you're proud of, your time that you served our country and you served with your brothers and sisters. There are things in there. Let's unlock them. Let's start getting you to be proud moving forward.
Being that open emotionally and being able to do that, I've been voted most likely to cry on the podcast. So, and again, nobody doubts that. What you got, Stacey?
Well, I was just going to say, I completely relate to that. I think it took me a lot to figure that out. It took me a few years to turn that around in my head, because I had a lot of survivor skills. I did. I was like, why? I always had that question of like the shoulda, woulda, couldas, but I try to live my life now, not because of it, but in spite of. So I mean,
can also live your life like you are still here, and you're here for a reason. So make them proud.
I am here for a reason. And
you were chosen for a reason, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Make them proud.
Absolutely. I mean, it drives me why I do my show After Action. It drives me why I do this podcast, and why you do what you do for the same reasons. If we can save one life in whatever we do, then it's well worth it. And, speaking of which, you've got your hands in a billion things for veterans. And I thank you so much. And when I was on a path of discovery, looking at all the things that you're doing, I stumbled upon the MVP, the movie. I watched the trailer. And Joe is voted most likely to cry on the podcast. I am a notorious person that doesn't cry watching movies. And my husband jabs at me. Because I don't, but I will say that even watching the trailer, I got misty eyed, and I got misty eyed at the line when one of the characters said, quote, "You didn't die. So when are you going to start living?" It was such a gut punch. And I was like, I felt that to my core. Yeah. According to the website, the movie drops in September. What is this? When is this movie?
No, it dropped. Well,
it dropped last September?
Yeah, it needs to be updated. It dropped.
How did we miss it?
How did I miss it? I think it dropped 2 years ago.
Okay. Oh my gosh. I feel in the dark. Where can I watch it?
It's on Showtime. It's on, I don't know. They say I'm an executive producer on that. I didn't have a lot to do with it, except they filmed at my house a couple scenes. I was more Nate Boyer's baby. And I think I just saw it on Showtime last week, actually. So go to Showtime.
Well, alphas, join me in watching it, and then we'll talk amongst ourselves, because apparently I've been under a rock. Now, full disclosure, I tend to avoid military movies like the plague. So when I see something in uniform or veteran related, I tend to like just glaze over it. But because I
come one day and basically they broke into my house and we're filming. I'm like, okay, good.
Oh, nice. So it was a major takeover.
Yes. No doubt.
So also in what I discovered is you were part of reuniting Shoshana Johnson, who was a POW from the Iraq War, which I and Joe are both Iraq War veterans. She was part of the initial invasion, and she was taken as a POW along with Jessica Lynch and oh my gosh. Yes. Thank you. And so she had never seen the Marines that rescued her, and it was part of the reunion. I'm not going to tell her story. I want you to tell me, what was that like?
Wow. So, Shoshana Johnson was first Black woman POW in the history of our military. She was caught basically by Saddam's guards, or his Irish Republic Guard. And it's in the movies, you see like, oh, you get rescued, and it's this big grand love story, and that's it. But in reality, they rescued her, got her to where they needed to a medical facility in Kuwait. And the Marines that rescued her hitchhiked back right into Iraq and fought again for another 8 or 10 years. So they never met her. Besides that, they never saw her before or after. That was it. And I found this out. And there's a guy named Elliot Ruiz, who's actually the first vet I ever helped before I even started MVP. And I had a guy, one of my head trainer at my gym, Unbreakable, Gabe Rangel. He was Marine Recon. And Gabe would ask if a couple of his military buddies can train for free at my gym. I'm like, absolutely. So Elliot would come in every day, and he couldn't look you in the eye. Am I allowed to curse on this podcast or no?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Yeah, do it.
So he wouldn't look you in the eye. He walked, and every day it was like, man, couldn't look you in the eyes, kind of doom and gloom. And one day, I throw the elephant in the room all the time. And I said, hey, dude, you come in here every day. Why don't you look at anybody? So, oh, man, it's part of this mission where we save these American POWs, and I shot this truck hit razor wire hit my leg, took me for about 150 yards. It gave me multiple sclerosis. I've had 14 surgeries at the time on his left leg. My right foot, his drop foot doesn't work. And man, I can't even put my pants on. My wife has to put my pants on for me in the morning. And I said to him, hold on, back up. Did you just say that your unit saved American POWs? He said, yeah, but. I said, no. There's no yeah, but here. You just saved American POWs? Yeah, okay. That's it. Elliot, you ain't like the rest of the world. Excuse my language here. Motherfucker, you're different. Okay, and different is good. And he said, well, what do you want to do? I said, from now on, I want you to start walking into this gym. And don't even look me in my eyes. Look above my eyes. You're above me. There's all sorts of people in this gym who have done incredible things. None of us could even dream of saving American POWs. That's, in my eyes, as high as you could possibly get. I said, not just the gym. I want you to start walking around everywhere you see anyone and hold your head up higher, because you ain't like the rest of us. You're different. And really carry yourself like that. And he said, what am I just supposed to change the way I view myself? I said, yep. Right fucking now. Right now. You know what? If you want to tomorrow, I'll give you to tomorrow. That's it. But Elliot, it takes a fraction of a second to make a decision. Why wouldn't you? And he did. He came in the next day. He's been a totally different guy ever since. And so that's before I ever started MVP. So he was the first guy. Fast forward, when we did start MVP, and I also, a lot of when I worked with him, I said, okay, well, if I could do it with him, I think I could do it with a lot of these vets. And I was already trying to help players, and that's why I'm like, let's put them together. But also combat vets look up to players look up to combat vets. It seemed like a natural team to put together for me in transition. So in COVID, we had to switch to getting on Zoom. And he said, hey, I actually got in contact with the woman we rescued, Shoshana. He said, I'd love to bring her on. I said, dude, do it. He said, I'm going to try and get the rest of my unit to come on. So they actually came on Zoom. On Zoom, it was unbelievable. Like, they've never met. And I was like, oh my God. She literally was like, oh my God, I can't believe. She fell out of the screen crying and just screaming, thank you for saving me. Well, fast forward, Unbreakable is now a podcast also. It's a mental health podcast. It was called Unbreakable, a mental health podcast. Now I changed it to Unbreakable, a mental wealth podcast, because I don't want everybody to have a stigma when we're talking about it. So, and building our mental health leads to mental wealth. So I asked them to come on, the two of them. So this guy, Kearney Russell, was the guy who kicked in the door and rescued her in Iraq. And what they think is the day before she's going to actually get executed. And he's telling his story and she's telling hers. And they came on the podcast. We aired a little on Fox NFL Sunday for Veterans Day. But while they were there, again, they're like, yeah, we still have never met. We've never met in person besides that. So I said, I promise you, I make you my promise that I will get you all to meet in person sometime here within the next 6 months. I'll make it happen, whatever I have to do. And we tried for the holidays, couldn't happen. But in March of this year, I flew Shoshana out, I flew Elliot out, flew Kearney out, all out to my house in Malibu, just because I wanted to keep my promise. I made a promise to them, and I wanted to keep it. And it was funny because while we were there, it was just me keeping my promise. Kearney's like, hey, we need to do another podcast. And I said, yeah, well, I wasn't even thinking about that for this. But he said, no, he said, Jay, again, you talk about a lot about us talking about our stories. He said, when I did my podcast with you, so I was 18 when I rescued her. It's hard to unpack as an 18-year-old, right? He's been out for 3 months, and it wasn't really his first mission. And he has to kick that door in, and it took him 4 times to kick the door in.
Wow.
Think about that, those nerves.
Wow.
And she's hearing boom, 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 doesn't know what's going on. So it was interesting to hear the both of them. He said, you know, my daughter saw the little clip you put on Fox, and then she went down and listened to the podcast. And she came running up the stairs. She said, my daughter's not like this. She came running up the stairs and said, why have you never told me you're a hero? Like, think about that. This is from 18 years earlier. And he's like, just all these years, I didn't know how to unpack it and talk about it. But when I got that reaction from my daughter, even my wife doesn't know the whole thing. We talked about everything there. It's the first time they heard it. And our story really is our equity. That's our equity. Our experience is our equity. Our scars are our equity. Our stories are our equity. The moment he did that, he said, man, Jay, I wish I'd done this earlier, because it could have helped a lot of my friends. But like, my parents never heard it. They never knew that their kid was a hero. I'm trying not to get choked up here, but I am. So he filmed another one right there, just to get people to understand the things you've done. There's a lot to be proud of. You know, I keep telling all you guys, you don't know me, you don't know my family, you don't know my kid. You leave your own family to go make me feel safe. Everybody's a hero who does that. Everybody. I don't care what action you see or don't see. It's as selfless as you can get. So to put them together, and man, the stories we were told in the house by Shoshana were unbelievable. Like, and the fact that Kearney hitchhiked back and fought for another 10 years. This guy's such a hero. Now he's feeling like a hero, feeling the way he should for what he did. And now we have a group text chain with me, Elliot, Kearney, and Shoshana, and we got our own little tribe, our own little family, and we keep up with each other. And actually, I had Shoshana likes to cook and bake. I actually had her make my wedding cake. It's like, anybody can have a normal wedding cake, but you can't have a wedding cake made by a woman who was 22 days captivity and survived.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize how important it is when you go from these isolating lifestyles, like professional sports or military, and how important it is to connect to the civilians around you, to the people who haven't had those experiences, because you don't want people to go through those things. You know, anyone who gatekeeps someone, you don't know what I've been through, they haven't learned yet. They haven't learned yet that it's part of service is that you do these things that other people can't or aren't capable of, or so that they just don't have to do them. And you get home and you're alone, and you feel like you have peaked, like you've done the most important thing in your life. You
don't have to be alone. You're alone because you're choosing. That's what I'm trying to say. If you tell these stories, people are like, wow, you don't have to be alone. And these stories are, wow, that's our equity, right? But you're like, nope, I'm told not to talk about it. Can't talk about it. Can't tell everybody how special I am. No, start telling people how special you are. And I just want to change the narrative. Like Shoshana, even, like, I'm doing a lot of work with Shoshana now. This one was a POW for 22 days. And they same thing happened to her, that what Hamas did, the people they took to that music festival, they put her in trucks and they beat her and they whipped her and they spit at her and they passed her from home to home. It was awful. And I'm trying to really get her to understand, Shoshana, you're one of one. You're only one Black woman, who the first one to ever be an American POW and survive. You are special, just like to Elliot. You're not like the rest of us. You're different. And she started telling me all these great things other people did in her family. I'm like, no. I don't care what you tell me. They have not done more than you. You know who you are. And we've been doing a lot of work with her on that. And I'm going to continue to.
So the last thing I want to ask you on my end is, when you're going to do a gym out in Atlanta so I can come get thundered by a couple of... I
actually just sold my other gym, the one in West Hollywood, because I moved to Malibu. But we'll open up other ones. And actually, I sold it to my head coach and also one of my main coaches, who's 101st Airborne.
Nice.
My main MMA coach out there, love him. So the fact that I could pass this on to the guys in there that I love, you really, when you start things, you really want to pass this along. And even with MVP, like I was running MVP and I was able to hand it off to Nate Boyer and some of the other cats over there. And, I'm trying now to figure out also what I could do with a mental health charity. That's my next one that I want to do, while still making sure Unbreakable Gym still thrives and MVP will still thrive. But what else I could do to, be able to help. And I'm trying to figure out where there's a void where I can help. And that for me, while I talk about my mental health issues, being of service, I talk about it openly with people. I have clinical depression, anxiety, ADHD, bipolar, and insomnia, all clinical. And the fight that goes on in my head every day, man, it's a daily battle. It's a daily. Everybody's like, "Oh, your life is great." My life is great, but between my ears sucks, and it's a daily. It's exhausting. So if I could, being of service for me, MVP was the third charity I actually started. I started one in New York, helping homeless people get jobs, and then started one for children who are fighting for their lives called Touchdown Dreams. I did that for a while, and then MVP is the third, and now it's in great hands. So I'm trying to figure out that next one that I could start to really help the masses, where it will help vets and civilians alike. I just don't know what that looks like yet. And I'm going to actually sit down with Michael Phelps, who we do a lot of mental health stuff together, and trying to figure out how we could help the masses together. And so, but service gets the roommates in my head to talk a little bit better to each other. You combine that with having teams. MVP is a team for me. Unbreakable is a team for me. Fox NFL Sunday is a team. My fight team is a team. God is a team for me. My dog is a team. My wife now, I just got married. She's a team. There are teams all around us. We can lean into our team. That helps me cut through the gray a lot as well.
Your cake maker?
The cake maker, yep. My cake maker. So I have a new little team there, which is great. And then, I just became part of a charity also, really the head of getting veterans and children with autism below 12 free stem cells down in Panama.
Wow.
And Elliot Ruiz, the vet I talked about, was the first guy we sent down. And he was a guy who couldn't put his pants on all the years I've known him. And he just did a Tough Mudder marathon where he got wounded veterans, and his right foot's working for the first time since I've known him. It's unbelievable.
Tremendous things about the stem cell stuff.
Yeah.
There's a place, Origins in Panama, and I was a week away from a 3-level fusion on my back. And it's 2 years ago. Now I don't need one. It's unbelievable.
Incredible.
Like, unreal. Yeah.
Well,
So
all,
hopefully
congratulations.
we'll be able to raise a lot of money and be able to send a lot of veterans down there to get that treatment as well.
Congratulations on getting married. That's all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Never too late.
And
And we're glad you're still here.
Yeah.
One step at a time, brother.
No doubt.
I hope
man.
you will
No
put
doubt.
Joe and I on your text message thread too, and consider us part of your team.
I like it. Very cool.
Yeah.
More teams I could have, the better.
Yep.
Right?
Well, I got
The more
a
can lift you
call.
guys up, the better.
I got a call from your helicopter pilot, and he said the rotors are turning. So thank you so much for giving us the time today. We really, really appreciate it. Is there anything that you'd like to share that we didn't discuss already?
No, I think we're all good. I appreciate it. I really do. And, like I said, every combat vet out there, just realize, man, your scars are your equity. It's what makes you special, which what I brag about most of my life. For those with survivor's guilt, your loved ones who you lost, they want you to go do great things. They don't want you strong. So make it survivor's responsibility to do something great for your life. And you guys have already done stuff that 99.9999999% of the world would not do. Realize it about yourself and allow yourself to hold your head up a little bit higher with everything you do, and figure out, hey, the stuff I've done in the military, how does that translate to something I want to do in the rest of my life? And then it's okay for me to go sell myself to somebody. This is what I could do, right? That me having grace under fire and courage under pressure, and you can rely on me, count on me. This is who you want working for you, and why I can help out an organization. So there's don't stop being a warrior once the uniform comes off.
Brother, it means a world that you've spent some time talking to us today. We'll have all your social media handles and links that we've talked about in the show notes. Is there a website where alphas can go to learn more about your work?
Yeah, go to Unbreakable, download my Unbreakable, the Unbreakable podcast. Do that, and then the book Unbreakable, How I Turn My Depression, Anxiety into Motivation. You can too.
Hurrah.
All right.
Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, gang.
Thanks. All right, alphas. You can learn more about Shoshana Johnson in the September issue of the American Legion magazine. She is a fellow Legion member, and she shares her story with us. Hey, and don't forget, also, as Jay mentioned, he has the podcast. He's done great work with her, so be sure to listen to his podcast. But for now, stick around. We've got some scuttlebutt right after the break.
The American Legion is raising awareness about PTSD and veteran suicide by offering hope, camaraderie, and support.
Be the one to help end veteran suicide.
Be the one to save one veteran.
Be the one to ask a veteran in your life how they're doing.
Be the one to reach out when a veteran is struggling.
Go to betheone.org and help the American Legion end veteran suicide.
Will you be the one?
Okay, alphas, we hope you had a great break. Now it's time for some scuttlebutt. Faked you out. I said butt that time.
Switching it up on me, JoJo.
Yeah, I'm not a robot.
Las Lunas, American Legion Post makes her story. When American Legion Post SE5 was revived in September 2022 after the pandemic, its members viewed it as a great opportunity to chart a new course for their post. And this chapter in the Post history, which dates back to 75 years, would open under another name. It was initially named after John P. Elliott, a citizen of Valencia County, who provided the land in Las Lunas, where the post is located. But members learned that Elliott was not a veteran. Quote, Elliott graciously donated the property for the post, but we wanted to change the name to a veteran that we would and could honor, said Kathy Chalk, the commander of Post 85. Members began looking for Valencia County veterans, eventually landing on Belen native Tamara Long Archuleta, who served as a captain in the Air Force, as a helicopter rescue pilot, and the 41st Helicopter Rescue Squadron. On March 23, 2003, during a deployment to Afghanistan, Long Archuleta was flying a rescue mission to save 2 injured Afghan children when her helicopter, an H-860G Pavehawk named the Komodo 11, crashed into a mountain. Oh, geez. All 6 crew members on board died instantly. Long Archuleta was 23. Goodness, she was young. In honor of her service and legacy, she left. Post 85 decided to rename its post in honor of Long Archuleta, becoming the first American Legion post in New Mexico to be named after a female veteran. Ooh, I got goosebumps.
Yeah.
Quote, honoring her and her memory and family is just a great feeling, said Andrew Sanchez, vice commander of Post 85. Quote, we're just so honored, said Richard Long Archuleta's father. It's been 21 years and she's had several honors, and for them to still be thinking of ways to recognize her and her sacrifice makes us feel very good, end quote. Wow.
I like
That's
that.
cool.
Initially, I was thinking, I don't think it would bother me too much having a post who, donated be named after, but that was a very worthy switch though. I mean,
Yeah.
that was good. Elliot may be easier to spell and say, but
I am quite sure that Elliot and his heirs would not be disappointed with the name change, and I'm sure that the land still holds the dedication that he gave the land over for. And what an incredible veteran she is. And plus, it is American Legion tradition that posts are named in honor of deceased veterans, according to our super producer, Holly, who's nodding vigorously.
Wouldn't it be awesome if we ran out of post names? That either would mean a lot of posts or people stopped dying in war.
Let's make it as of today. No more veterans die that we can name posts after.
There we go. It's a rule. You guys listening? Pay attention.
No more.
We'll have links for that in the show notes as well. I want to tell you about something from Breaking Defense. The South by Southwest Festival has decided to bar the military of defense industry to be a sponsor level participant in the 2025 edition of the Music and Technology Showcase, organizers announced today. So this move follows protest at the 2024 event, which included the U.S. Army as a super sponsor of the event. What is an Army? Anyway, as well as the visible participants from the RTX subsidiary Collins. In a statement published on the SXSW website, that's, I'm pretty sure, South by Southwest.
That is South by Southwest.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's actually way harder to say the acronym than it is to say. So the organizers state that after careful consideration, we are revising our sponsorship model. As a result, the U.S. Army and companies who engage in weapons manufacturing will not be sponsors of SXSW South by Southwest 2025. It is unclear how the organizers will categorize companies who engage in weapons manufacturing, and whether that means, say, space companies that do work for the DoD, would they be barred from the show? And it's also unclear if the military or defense firms can still exhibit at the event if they're below the sponsored level of participation. In response to a request for clarification, organizers repeated the statement and said that it is the only language we have on the subject. Wouldn't you hate to be on the ground trying to explain this to other people with like no information? Like, that's what they're telling us. We don't know.
Yeah. Well, the question, I mean, I know you've got a little bit more to share on this, but this could be a slippery slope because so many companies are tied back to the military technologies. Really, because of the military, so many new technologies and industries are developed. I mean, looking all the way back to, say, something as mundane as women hygiene, right? So sanitary napkins and tampons were developed during World War I because of, Army nurses. So, would let's say Tampax want to be a key sponsor? Are you going to ban Tampax because of their former relationship to the military?
I mean, if they're sending 100 tampons up every time a lady goes on a trip for 3 days up to the space station, then...
Oh my gosh, that viral video makes me crack up every time. Oh, Alphas, if you haven't seen this video, please do us the honor of going to YouTube and typing 100 tampons in space. It's hilarious.
It's fantastic.
100 tampons.
Yeah, I don't have a song for that ready. It's so beautiful that you wrote something, though.
100 tampons. Yeah, anyway.
Army Futures Command spokesperson, Lieutenant Colonel Jamie Dobson, told Breaking Defense that service does not believe it is fully banned from all future events and did not rule out the possibility of attending SXSW in some capacity next year. That almost sounded smooth. We appreciate the opportunity to join South by Southwest in 2024. With U.S. Army Futures Command headquarters in Austin, we value any opportunity to join with our community to ignite discovery and make new connections. Dobson subsequently wrote in a short statement, "The Army will continue to seek opportunities to meet technology innovators and leaders, explore new ideas and insights, and create dynamic industry partnerships because tomorrow is worth protecting." That sounded like a very political answer. It doesn't mean it's wrong, but yeah, it seems carefully crafted. I mean, but you don't want to ruin a relationship, so you got to be careful. I had
a very carefully crafted think tank come up with that.
So while best known as a music festival over the last decade, SXSW has become more and more.
Don't even try that anymore. Just say
I'm gonna win one day.
You are not.
Believe in the me that believes in you. Has become more and more of a technological showcase, with defense companies taking note. The first notable visit was in 2017 when Lockheed Martin bought a Sikorsky helicopter for the show, and defense presence has been regular ever since, particularly after the 2018 stand-up of Army Futures Command, which is based in Austin. Both the military and defense industry have viewed the show as a chance to talk with new tech vendors, as well as push the message that the military is open to innovation. Ooh, innovation.
It seems like almost like a 180 going from a music festival to a tech fest. That would be like showing up to CES, which is Consumer Electronics in Las Vegas, and then ending up at a rave party.
Is a music festival? Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, imagine something going there like,
I'm here to see the new flat screens. You know what I mean?
what's that?
Where are the new robots?
Do you guys have a locker I can put my inventions? I gotta dance.
Yes. Do you have any glow sticks? Is this the body paint section? Yeah, I don't know. Doesn't make
Every place is a body paint section if you're brave enough.
Well, there isn't enough lycra to cover these thighs, Joe. Sorry.
Oh, so we're going to have links in the show notes as well as the YouTube video. You should check it out. It's very eye-opening.
You don't know.
We should actually do a whole song. I'll do backup vocals.
Let's do it. You know, I don't necessarily have a scuttlebutt to wrap up our scuttlebutts, but since today's guest was sports related, I wanted to kind of circle back on a sports related thing. And I thought I'd share a fun little snippet about another sports related individual I once met while on tour on the road with my Veterans Forger project during my 50-state tour. I once found myself in Tampa, Florida. I met a fellow by the name of Bill Rasmussen, a fellow Air Force veteran. He was a supply officer during his time. We got to chatting about his early life in the military and his post service career. And I discovered that he had founded, wait for it, ESPN. Da-na-na, da-na-na. That's right. It wasn't called ESPN back then, but rather Entertainment and Sports Programming. Bill became a TV and radio news sports director after his service and eventually incorporated the fledgling dedicated sports network in 1978. After selling 85% of the network's shares to Getty Oil, Bill relinquished his role in the day-to-day business and left the company in 1980. In 1984, ABC purchased a controlling interest in ESPN. Ta-na-na, na-na-na. Today, ESPN boasts 8 U.S. TV networks, sports apps, and ESPN audio, and is owned by the Walt Disney Company. There is another weird one that doesn't make sense to me. That's like bringing a xylophone to war.
Yeah.
ESPN and Walt Disney.
You didn't have one?
I did not.
You
at
didn't
any
have
rate,
a xylophone? No wonder you guys got it's a rough time over there.
I'm Air Force. You know, we bring violins. We don't bring
violas.
We bring violas. Anyway, not a scuttlebutt, but a fun little sports fact and a link to the military. There you go.
All right, Alphas, thank you so much for listening. You can subscribe to our podcast, our newsletter, or send us mail or male or female and guest recommendations at legion.org/Tango Alpha Lima. We'll see you next week.
Don't forget the .com.
.com. We'll see you next week. .com.
100 tampons.
.com.
Yeah, I think I like it.